Welcome. I am going to sing what is called a nigun, a wordless melody in Judaism. If you know the melody, it does actually have words. It's a wedding melody. If you know it, I invite you to sing it with me, and we will welcome the scroll in love. Please rise. Yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 yai dai 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 da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 ya 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 da 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 ya da 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 ya da 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 hi da 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 ya da 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 da. You may be seated. Father Peter.
I rarely find myself getting emotional, but there is something overwhelming for me to be part of this, to have given something to others that's a representation of something so beautiful and sacred. So I'm grateful for you all to be with us this morning, to dedicate this, to gift this, to celebrate what it represents, and to celebrate our greatest aspirations. The thought crossed my mind that often when we are nostalgic, there's a little bit of sadness in nostalgia. We say, those were the good old days. For the last 6.5 years since I've first come to Elon, I have often been saying to anyone willing to listen that for me, these are the good old days. I remind myself of that because I never want to forget how privileged, how blessed, and how enriched my life is because of what I've been given here in this Truett Center community, in this Elon community. I came here a little bit sight unseen, and I didn't fully know the beauty of what had been created here at Elon and what I had the opportunity to be part of. My life has been radically changed because of deep relationships and long conversations where with joy I got to share my faith, but more importantly, I got to hear the faith of others as we spoke of ancient traditions and contemporary methods of prayer, you name it. I could spend all day telling you these stories of conversations with Rabbi Meir Goldstein, who was the associate chaplain for Jewish life when I first came. Or Imam Shane Atkinson. He's here somewhere. He's in the back. He's being a very devout religious person sitting in the back. The conversations over lunch, over tea, over wine, over maybe other beverages, just has absolutely changed and enriched my life. So when 5 years ago, Rabbi Meir and I started talking, just because we were sharing about our own personal interests and hobbies, he's a very talented guitar player. I told him about my hobby of woodworking. And he then immediately got excited and said, "Oh, do you want to build us an ark?" Now, so here's the thing. My immediate reference was a really big boat that Noah built. And honest to goodness, I looked at him and I said, "No." And he said, no, not that kind of ark. He said, and then he taught me, I didn't know this. This is just one of those details that has enriched my life. He taught me what a Torah ark is. And in that conversation, upstairs in this very building, in his office, I just started sketching on a scrap piece of paper what that might look like. And we began to dream and get excited about the possibility. And at the time, Reverend Jan Fuller, the conversation then was shared with her, and everyone was excited about this. For some strange reason that I don't fully understand, it just never got off the ground. We tend to keep ourselves fairly busy. So last year, as Reverend Kirsten Boswell had taken over in the position as university chaplain after Reverend Jan Fuller had retired, she heard about the conversation, and it got energy and excitement yet again. And I think the thought in my head was, why have we waited so long? So it took some work, it took some planning. God bless Boaz, because, where did he go? Oh, Boaz actually was a very collaborative partner in this design. In fact, the feature that people tend to compliment me the most about are the acorn knobs. I'm not that creative. That was his idea. The design for the doors to open the way that they do, that was his idea. The beautiful curtains on the inside, that was his idea. So much of what went into this were things that I never would have thought of, and he contributed, and we talked about over the months that it happened. I was thinking this summer as I was committing 225 hours to this construction. This is the 18th year that I have engaged in the hobby of woodworking. And just this morning, I was reminded that in Judaism, 18 is a very special number that represents life. I had been told that, but I forgot. And to have all of this come back in such a joyful and meaningful way fills me with great emotion. Rarely have I ever known the sense of peace and pride when I was able to gather with Hillel a few weeks ago for Rosh Hashanah on the first day of services, as I got to see them celebrate, rejoice, and use this ark for the first time. I always feel like when I build something out of wood, I do primarily use hand tools, do it the old-fashioned way, which is why it took 225 hours. I feel like I'm making something good and adding goodness to the world. It's a very meditative and a very spiritual thing for me whenever I build things. And when I saw it used that Monday morning for Rosh Hashanah, tears were streaming down my eyes. Because I knew that some lasting, beautiful goodness had been added to our world and to our community. And I was amazed at how wonderful that felt to know that I was able to do that. I was able to offer that. I was able to collaborate and to enrich our traditions, to celebrate the relationships that we've had for so long and that we continue to deepen. Years ago, I learned the idea of tikkun olam. repair the world. This is something that has changed my theological output. Just ask my students. This is something I preach about now all the time, and I never knew about prior to building a relationship with Hillel here at Elon. It's changed my whole life. I'm convinced, and one of the things that building this Torah arc has taught me as I prayed through every hour and every day in my workshop, that the work of giving away the best of who you are in service and honor of the sacred that's in other people's lives, that for me truly is one of the most meaningful things that we can do to repair the world. So I am beyond grateful for the way in which my Jewish brothers and sisters have enriched and changed my life, my Muslim brothers and sisters, and all those of different religious, spiritual, and ethical backgrounds, and the way my life has been changed because of the gift that is Elon to me. I will never be the same, and I am sure, maybe there's a little sadness in this, but for me, these are the good old days. I'm convinced that the work that we do here, the work that I get to be part of, really is Tikkun Olam. I think we really are doing the work of repairing the world. Thank you so much.
So, staying true to the theme of me in my own words, we'll be sharing personal arc stories. I would like to invite Adam Arno and Ian Prohofsky, first-year students, to share their stories with us.
Hello? Okay, cool. I don't like giving speeches. I was terrified of the idea of standing in front of anyone and saying anything. My first big speech was at my bar mitzvah, in front of 600 people at my summer camp. I figured we should just go big at the beginning. We had it there to ensure that my grandmother, who was diagnosed with cancer, would be able to attend, though she did end up living 2 more years, but more about that later. I was nervous as I walked up to the bima, the stage at the front of the ark. What if I say something wrong? What if I mess up? But once up there, I felt the support of my camp community in front of me, but also support from what was behind me, the ark that holds the Torah. This serves as a backdrop to important moments in my life, but no time more than at my grandmother's funeral. I had the honor of giving her eulogy. Again, I was nervous as I walked up to the bima. This time, however, not because I had to give a speech. I had gotten a little better at those. Instead, I was nervous about living life without her. I reached the bima and caught one last glimpse of the ark as I turned to face the crowd. A sea of family, cousins, and community members all sat there, waiting for what I had to say about her. As I struggled to start, I remember how she sat at my bar mitzvah, cheering me on as I gave my speech. And as I finished my remarks, I stepped down off the bima into a community supporting me. Why am I telling these two seemingly disconnected stories? Well, in my life, whenever I reach a new point, whether it be physical or spiritual, I know I can find community in Judaism. And once my eyes rest on that ark, like they do today, I know I'm home. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. So, for me, the story's a little bit confusing. My story doesn't actually start with an arc, but it ends with one. My story actually started with my Torah that I was going to read for my bar mitzvah. This Torah was over 200 years old and actually ended up surviving the Holocaust in the Czech Republic. During World War II, it was brought to the U.S., but we really don't know by who or how, and somehow the Torah ended up in the synagogue in South Florida. Sadly, that synagogue in South Florida ended up closing, and the Torah made the long trip to northwest Arkansas, which seemed a fitting place as it does have Ark in the name. And the special Torah needed a home. In Arkansas, the congregation worked on repairing the Torah. When it was ready, I was fortunate enough to be the first person to read from it. And interestingly enough, I ended up meeting the last person to read from it in South Florida by total coincidence. Now here's where the Ark comes in. I did not actually end up having my bar mitzvah in our synagogue. Our synagogue was pretty small, and we didn't have the space for my extended family. But we still needed an Ark to hold the Torah, my bar mitzvah. And the Ark in the synagogue was on the second floor and too big to move. So my mom improvised. She went to the hardware store, bought several 2x4s, screwed them together, and hung curtains from both sides. Quick and innovative. So the Ark for my bar mitzvah consisted of several painted 2x4s with curtains and a Torah that was over 200 years old and survived the Holocaust. A humble home for a Torah with a long and interesting history. As much as I like the Torah from my bar mitzvah, I can tell just by looking at this one how much time and craftsmanship went into it. Over 200 hours, which is just amazing to me. And I'm sure it will be a good home for the Hillel Torah for many years to come. Each Torah holds the voices and stories of the people who have touched it and read from it. And our Elon Torah and this Elon Ark will hold the stories for this very special community.
So I also have a story. My story takes place in Moldova, a former Soviet republic nestled between Romania and Ukraine. If you don't know anything about Moldova, I do not blame you. It is this small. Moldova, in 1991, Moldova declared independence as the dissolution of the Soviet Union was underway. These changes allowed for a renaissance of Jewish life. Communities started to form, and organized Jewish life resumed after many years. In the early 2000s, the Jewish Federation in Greensboro, North Carolina, formed a partnership with the Jewish community in the city of Belzig. And for a decade, delegations of Jewish professionals, high school and college students, helped run a Jewish youth camp for that community. Every year, we had to look for a new campsite, and in 2005, we ended up near the city of Soroka in the northeast of Moldova. We were given a tour of the town, and we were invited to visit the only synagogue. The community leaders were so proud and wanted to show us the Torah scroll in the Ark. The Ark had a curtain in front of it, and when they opened it, we were surprised to see that the Ark was a gray metal box with a big lock. Nothing at all like this beautiful Ark behind me. They opened the Ark door and showed us the Torah, yet the idea of a big metal box for an Ark wasn't clear. And so we asked, why a metal box? Why a lock? We are afraid that the scroll will be damaged by water or fire, was the answer. We feel that we need extra security to protect this holy book, they concluded. And here we are at Elon University in Elon, North Carolina, celebrating the dedication of a new Ark for our Torah. Here at Newman Lumen, a multi-faith space of worship, witnessed by our community and built with much thought, love, and impeccable craftsmanship by our own Father Peter. We are blessed indeed. We are here celebrating our traditions and this Ark openly, proudly, and without concern. A special thank you should go to Reverend Jan Fuller, Reverend Kirsten Boswell, and Betsy Polk, Director of Jewish Life, for bringing this project to fruition. I would like Father Peter to join me here, as I want to present him with a token of our appreciation. Father Peter, as some of you might know, loves pens, and he has quite the collection. So on behalf of all of us at Jewish Life, and the Truett Center of Religious and Spiritual Life, we want to present you with a new pen made in Israel and with very special ink. I hear the bottle is amazing. Beautiful bottle. Toda rabah. Thank you very much for making this beautiful ark and sharing your talents with us. It is now my pleasure to call on students from Hillel and from Catholic Life to offer the priestly blessing.
Yivarecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
Ya'er Adonai panav alecha v'yichunecha.
Isa Adonai panav v'elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God bless you and keep you.
May God's face shine upon you and be gracious to you.
May God lift up God's face upon you and give you peace.
Thank you. It is customary in Judaism when using something for the first time, such as a garment or, say, an ark, to say a blessing thanking God for keeping us alive and sustaining us and allowing us to reach this moment. So for those of you who know this song version of this blessing, I invite you to sing it with me. And it is on the back of your program, the Shechianu blessing. Please rise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam shechianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. Blessed are you, Adonai our God, ruler of the universe, who has given us life, sustained us, and brought us to this season. Amen.